All right, I'm gonna start on the BC coilovers. The first thing I'm gonna do is remove the wheels. There is a wheel lock, nice little thing in the glove box. So you find this, you can get the wheels off, and then probably do the front first and do the back. I'm not sure how the back works out, but we'll figure it out. All right, we got the front wheels off. Looks like it's just got 3 bolts up top that you'll have to access through the engine bay. No big deal. And then it's got one big one down here with a nut. I think you're gonna have to take this. Oh, I guess the sway bar connects to that. So I think you're gonna have to take this nut off. It might spin, but you can grab it or whatever on this side. And then this little bracket, this looks like it's got a couple 14s on it. I think that might have to come out to get the shock uncaptured. There's a couple of these wires you don't want to bend or break those, so I'm going to take this one off just to get some more slack. Take this one off down here. Maybe not. Yeah, let's take it off. Take this one off. There we go. So now I got a lot of slack to feed the coil around. I don't damage that. So I ended up taking this nut off on the back side of the sway bar, and then the nut off of the shock that was right here, and they're all linked together. So now that this is off, I can pull this out. There we go. This is like a sway bar in-link slash strut mount bolt. So yeah, once you get this out, you got to take this bracket off, and then the bottom of the shock is pretty much loose. And then we can go to the top and take the 3 out up there, and this thing should slip right out. I'm hoping. All right, got this little shock bracket out. He was living right here. The shock is pretty much loose. Let me zoom out a little. There we go. The shock is pretty much ready to go. We gotta go to the top, and she's gonna swing right out. All right, we're working on the top. Now that I'm gonna be kind of leaning near the car, I always like to take my knife out of my pocket because it's got this clip that hangs out. It will scratch the car. Let's get rid of that. Any keys, anything like that, belt buckles. We don't want to scratch the car. It looks like the bolts are right down there. Not to be confused with these. They're down there. So let's get those off real quick. Okay, got the 3 bolts off the top. I did pop this little wiring harness loose to get access to everything. Actually, there's a nut right down in there. I need to grab it. These are 12 millimeter. The bolts on this, one was a 17, one was a 19, and then the bolts on the bracket that I took off were 14. So you see 17, 19, 14, and 12 so far. All right, with the 12s removed, it fell down some. From what I can tell, I think it's gonna pull right out. There we go. Don't scratch the car. Boom. Not too shabby. Now we got to open up the BCs over there and stuff it back in there. Yeah. Yeah. Come on. Yeah. 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 Ooh. Left-handed. All right. BC coilovers. These people are actually local to me. This company's local to Orlando. Some cool paperwork, probably some cool stickers. There's the coils. A lot of these are preset already from the factory, and I like to throw them on and then adjust them from there. I don't really mess with them until they're on the car. A lot of times, you know, half the time I throw them on and the customer likes the height they're set at. So we're gonna go with that. Now, if you look at these, a lot of times, I'm gonna bang them up, but they see front right. I grabbed the first one I needed. Wow, that never happens. Front right, so make sure to pay attention to that. And then I'm gonna throw this on there real quick. It does come with new hardware, which is cool. And a lot of times these are 32-way adjustable. So I'll crank them all one way, and then I'll count, 16 clicks back and put them right in the middle. That way, if the customer wants to adjust them, they can feel free to do so. But anyway, so I'm gonna throw these on, and I'll be right back. All right, I got the new coilover mounted. These things are actually clocked already. You'll be able to tell that when the mounting hole for the coil is facing this way, that's the way it goes in. They actually synchronize it for you a little bit, which is nice. But yeah, it's all tight. It'd be easier if you had a second person to hold the coil while you start the nuts. I kind of had to struggle there for a second, but I got it, no big deal. So this is the factory setting on these. If you see, there is a lot of space between here and here. So this thing is definitely lowered like 4 inches or something like that. So since our sway bar is already disconnected, I'll be able to get a jack stand and push this up and get it all together. But you will not be able to connect the sway bar until we do the other side. So I can at least push this side of the pin through. This side I can't connect to the sway bar because the other side's going to hold the sway bar down. But anyway, so I'm going to try to get this in and then go from there. Okay, I got it all. I used this pole stand, pushed the knuckle all the way up, got it lined up, put our little bracket back on with our 3/14s. 1, 2, 3. I got everything just kind of loose here. Everything's just kind of loose, chilling. Obviously, like I said, I did not hook up the sway bar because the sway bar is way down here and you can't move it because the other side is still at the factory ride height. But this thing definitely lowered a lot. There's not a lot of space between here and there. So the customer wanted the car really low, so I think he's going to get what he asked for. Hopefully it doesn't rub and boil any paint. But I'm going to move on to the other side. I'm not going to show you the other side because it's exactly the same as this. But I'll show you when I finish everything up. So I got the other side apart, and now you'll see the sway bar can move. So it's easily installed back. Well, easy, not easy one-handed, but there's a nut here. So you got to have the other side taken apart for all this to work. But that's pretty much it. I am noticing that this thing is so low that there's not a lot of space for the control arm to operate. So coilovers are pretty stiff, so I don't think it's going to move too much. But if you slam these cars, this control arm is eventually going to touch that, and it's going to ride like crap, and it's going to sound terrible. And yeah, we don't want that. So just a note, if you're doing this, don't slam it too much because you're going to create some noise, you're going to create some bad riding characteristics, and you could damage the car. So we don't want any of that. I don't know if you can tell, but these are very low. I just put them on factory settings, and just how close this hub is to the fender is pretty insane. Another thing that's worrying me is how this control arm has gone up a lot. So I had to jack it up to meet the coil, and there's not a lot of space up here where my hand is between this and the car. So I'm hoping it doesn't knock or hit anything. There's maybe an inch. You pretty much can't go much lower. I wouldn't go much lower because I don't want it to hit the car and make noise. I don't want it to ride badly because it has no motion, and I don't want it to damage the car. So we'll see how low it is on the ground, but it's this bitch gonna be slammed. All right, so this is the driver's side. I got it done. Passenger side is the one I filmed for you guys. It's pretty much just 3 12 millimeters on the top. There's a 17 back here to get this sway bar link off. 19 millimeter nut here to get the shock bolt apparatus sway bar link thing out. I did take out these 3 14s, this one, and this one. It takes this plate off. I feel like it just made it easier to get it out. You probably leave that on if you want to wrestle with it, but I took them off. I also removed this wire and this wire hanger, and make sure to put everything back and tighten it all up. And that's pretty much it for the front. One thing to take notice when you're putting the wheels on is these lug nuts have this shank. This section sits in the wheel. You can see there's a nice space in there for it. So if you don't pay attention and get these all the way down, sometimes they can bind and it won't set the wheel flush on the hub. Evos are like this. Evos are like this, and DSMs like Eclipses and lasers and stuff. Anyway, just so you don't have a crazy wobbling problem or your wheel doesn't come off. I lightly impact these, very lightly. And when I get done with the rear, I'm going to go around and torque all the wheels by hand with a torque wrench. From right here, you can see how low this thing is going to be. It definitely has some negative camber as well. So the car will go for an alignment, but I don't know how adjustable everything is. But it's definitely low and definitely got a lot of camber. These are the BC lows, so it explains a lot. So I went ahead and broke the wheels off the back. Looks like there's 212s up here, long extension. Should be able to get that. 17 here. This nut looks like it's welded onto the shock, so that should come right off. And then this has to come out so you can drop this spring out. These coils do convert the shock and the spring all as one. That's why a coilover is a coilover. But anyway, so you're gonna be ditching the factory spring setup, and this perch will be empty when you're done. So I'm gonna go ahead and take some stuff apart. All right, so I went ahead and removed this bolt, 17 millimeter, this bolt, 17 millimeter with a 17 millimeter nut on the back. It wasn't preloaded too much, so it's not super scary, but we got to push this down and pull this spring out. And then we can go after the 212s up here, and then this thing will be stripped. All right, got the shock out, got the spring out, super simple. I just pushed this down, spring came out. This top piece was stuck to the car, this piece here. I popped that off the car, I didn't want it dangling there. And then 212s up top, and the shock, I had to push it forward and it came right out. So moving on. All right, I got the coil mounted with the 212s. They are tight. I put this bolt back for the spring perch saddle thing, and now I got my little jack stand here, and I'm gonna bring the car down and push it up so I can get this to go here. Also, this nut was zip tied on the bottom of the coil, and that goes on here. This is the factory bolt for the shock. Came with a nut because the factory shocks had a nut welded on, which is nice. But anyway, let's see if I can get it together. So I tried to push this up and it wouldn't go because the sway bar situation that I talked about on the front. So I went ahead and just stripped off the other side. And now I'll be able to push it up and get this to line up with that, and then do the other side. All right, so I went ahead and hung the other side, so both the coils are bolted to the car, and now I can crank this up or lower the car in the lift and get everything to line up. So let's see what happens. See, now it's going up, and I can crank on this. Make it happen. It's getting closer. And yeah, I'm gonna fight with this and get that bolt in real quick. All right, I got both bolts in on both sides, so everything's set up. It's just not tight yet. I'm gonna tighten it up. I jacked it up from here with my stand. I jacked it up from here, and I got this bolt to start in, but I couldn't get it to go all the way through. If you look right here, there's a nut on the other side. I had to jack it up from here and kind of twist the hub just slightly. Then that bolt on the bottom of the coil popped right through. So I got to tighten this one, tighten that one, and the rear's done. Throw the wheels on. Let's set it down and see how she looks. Well, I set the car down and it is extremely low. I don't know why BC set them so low. Normally they go on and it'll at least be okay. But it's already touching the fender liner, and I have two 2x4s underneath, and I still can't get it off the lift. The lift is still stuck. So I'm gonna have to put this up and raise it up at least an inch, maybe two, just to get it to where it's not destroying this brand new car. So yeah, so this thing was way too low, so I raised it. I'm sure everybody knows how to work coilovers, but if you don't, you break this bottom collar loose with a smaller wrench. You break it loose like this, boom. And then you run this one right here. And if you look, hold on a second. If you look closely, the entire shock will spin. See that? You don't want to lower this. You don't want to lower the spring down because you're just going to run your shock into the body and you're not going to get any dampening. You want to thread this shock into this mount. You want to thread the shock into the mount. So I did 60 turns. You can only move this wrench so much in here, so I counted to 60 and it went up probably an inch or an inch and a half. So don't ruin your coilovers by lowering the spring perch. That's not how you do it. A lot of people do that and then they say, oh, BC or whoever's coilover sucks. It's like, no, you did it wrong and you ruined them. So you want to leave this up here and you want to thread this in or out of the shock body depending if you want to go up or down, and that'll give you the best dampening. So just a quick little tip if you've never messed with these before. Yep, so I raised it an inch and it did absolutely nothing. So the wheels come back off and we do it again. I'm gonna raise it a lot this time. All right, so I raised the front over 3 inches and this is where it got me. That's where I'm gonna stay. Man, those things are set super low from the factory. I gotta do the rear now. Look how low the rear is. It's like tucked. So I'm gonna raise this significantly and I think we'll be good to go.